to Empowerment. I'm Kelly Whetstone. Thank you for joining me today. It is 10 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, July 4th, 2026. July 14th. What am I saying? July 14th. July is half over. Can you believe it? I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm really happy to have C.A. Brooks with me for our July 2026 meeting of the minds. Um, it's always a good show. We always have a good discussion. And if you'd like to be part of it, Empowerment is streaming live right now on YouTube, and you can join us in the chat there. And my YouTube address is www.youtube.com/@ Kelly W1850. We may or may not have time for readings today. We'll see how the conversation usually goes, or how the conversation goes, because usually it goes and goes. But we'll see. We'll see. If you would like a reading, you can find both of us on 12listen.com. I'm available every day, usually later morning Pacific into the evening. If you stop by and don't see me, or if I'm busy, just schedule a call, put in a callback request. I'm notified immediately and will get back to you as soon as I can. So, and also just it's my weekly reminder. We have reduced rates on calls and chats a few times a week, typically Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Today is the new moon, and we are celebrating it with reduced rates. I will be online this afternoon, probably somewhere between 12 and 12:30 Pacific time into the evening, and I would love to talk with you. If you'd like to be notified of our specials, go to 12listen.com and sign up for 12 promotions. And that just means you leave your email address. While you're there, you can post what you're grateful for on the gratitude board. Thank you again for being here today. I always speed talk through the beginning of this show because I can't wait to talk to CA. But thank you again for being here today, and thank you for listening however and whenever you do. You can access shows anytime you like on YouTube. So they're all there. And I just want to say thanks to Serena for producing the show today and all that she does for me and for all of us on 12 Radio. As you know, I am always glad to have CA with me on the show. If you do not know who CA Brooks is, or you're new to this show or to us, CA is a 12listen advisor, a clairvoyant astrologer, animal communicator. She's an avid student of A Course in Miracles, among many, many other things. She writes the week ahead section of The Power Peak, Mark Husson's weekly newsletter. She hosts Everyday Astrology here on 12 Radio, here on YouTube, which immediately precedes Empowerment live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. She has podcasts of her Course in Miracles shows available in the on-demand section at 12radio.com. I am not sure how much longer that's going to be available, but you might check it out. Our Meeting of the Minds is where we can bring everything and anything to the table. That's the most fun part about it because it ends up being a really fun show. And mainly because we use our intuition. When we talk, I always start with topic, but anything, spirituality, astrology, tarot, feng shui, stories about our families, dogs, anything and everything is welcome. And truthfully, we could talk for days. So it's always a fun show, and I always look forward to it. And I'll have CA join me in a couple of minutes. So today, I want to talk about the path of least resistance. And I've just had some kind of realizations about that term. I mean, I think that's a term that, I don't know, it's been a really important part of my consciousness for many, many, many years. Because really and truly, the path of least resistance is simply acceptance of what is happening in the moment. And I love to talk about acceptance because acceptance instantly neutralizes struggle. So it's something that I think we all have opportunities to use all through an ordinary day. We can practice it all through an ordinary day because life is changing, things are changing. You may have stuff on your to-do list, and I'm talking from personal experience, stuff on your to-do list. Something else comes in that needs to be done. Something else shows up. Somebody calls. Something happens. So nothing is ever set in stone. Nothing is ever, if you use a to-do list and that's your, by the end of the day, you're able to mark everything off of it, that's an accomplishment, and that feels good, and those days are great. But in those days, even with everything marked off, there may be things that came in that were just little surprises, something in the moment that you're called to do that is not on your to-do list, but it takes a priority. And those of us who live primarily by intuition have that happen a lot, right? Yeah, okay, here you are, you're ready to do this, and something's tapping you on the shoulder. Something's knocking on your door to go take care of. And until you do, you're not going to have your full attention to give the thing that you want to get marked off your to-do list, right? You do the thing that you're called to do and you're clear. And then you do the next thing. If it's the thing on your to-do list or something else, it maybe you're called to do. But I was thinking about the path of least resistance, and actually, I was laughing at myself because I use the I call it polar, the path of least resistance, polar, and um, I have polar outfits, clothes that feel good, look good, that I feel good in, that I wear all the time. And I'll look in my closet and I'll be looking there for a while, and then I'll go, polar, and grab something and grab the clothes that feel good, look good, and that I wear all the time. I have polar shoes. I recently bought some new shoes, and I'll get ready to go someplace, and I'll go, oh well, I could wear a pair of my new shoes, and then I go, oh, but I have to break them in first. So I pick my polar shoes. The shoes that I know fit, will look good with what I'm wearing, and be comfortable. I also have polar jewelry. I have a lot of jewelry. I have loved jewelry since I knew what it was. As a baby, I've always always loved jewelry. And Shannon, my husband, gave me a ton of jewelry. Just because of that, because he knew I loved jewelry. He gave me jewelry for birthdays, Christmas, Valentine's Day, and really and truly, him for him giving me jewelry was his path of least resistance, right? It was a path of least resistance to give me jewelry because I loved it. But again, I always find myself wearing the same pieces. So, and it just goes on. It goes on, polar meals. For me, it's just me. I eat salad. I don't cook for myself. I really don't because I don't care to. It's interesting. I eat I eat a primarily alkaline diet, which is super simple, and and I'm good. I'm good. I don't need huge variety. I love to go out to dinner. When I go out, I'm going to eat something different. But at home, I mean, it's just what I do. I have a, I have a polar grocery list. I mean, it's the same thing every week I go to the store. And I have polar routes to drive wherever I need to go to get to polar places, but stores like the grocery store I go to, Sprouts has a huge parking lot, easy to park, easy to get to. I mean, it's just funny. And I'm laughing because I'm kind of like not just realizing this, but realizing how funny it is, actually. And for me, organization and order is the path of least resistance because it makes life easy. And it's certainly more efficient to know where things are than running around like a crazy person trying to find something. But usually when you're trying to get out the door. So, I don't know. Those examples could be considered efficient and easy, or they could be considered boring and lazy. I don't know. Or just routine. And I hold my hand up. I have my routines. I do. But at the same time, I can be available for something else that comes in and takes me out of the routine. And that's all the part of the path of being on the path of least resistance. Or let me just say it simply, not resisting, accepting what happens. Then you just go along with that. And then somehow you end up back in, where you need to be. But, it could be called routine. It could be called all those things. I don't know, but it really is kind of funny and silly to think about. But really and truly, acceptance is the path of least resistance. and so is flexibility. And um, other things that fall under that category, the path of least resistance, but flexibility and acceptance are the two primary ones. And they are important because life changes on a dime. It just does. And plans get reconstructed, and we can either flow with them or dig our heels in and suffer because life is change. And so we're our own liberators, right? We are our own liberators. And when we just accept something, again, acceptance absolutely neutralizes suffering. It just does because you go, oh, okay. And then this big weight falls off your shoulders or this big thing that is in the middle of your gut because you wanted to do this and now you can't goes away because you're still going to be here tomorrow. You can do it another time or later on today. But it's just a simple thing to be aware of, and 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 it shows up in different ways. So here's another way to look at the path of least resistance. Number one, it is not static. It changes constantly because circumstances and people change constantly. My neighbors, um, who I've lived next door to, we've probably lived next door to each other for over 20 years. And I really don't know them. We kind of meet. I'm out working in the front yard, and the husband works from home, and the wife is in real estate. So she goes off to work and he's at home. So I'll be outside, or he and I'll, he'll be leaving when I get home, and we just say hi, talk for a few seconds. And last summer, both of their kids moved away. And these people are just, I mean, they are just the greatest parents. I mean, they're wonderful, wonderful parents. Their daughter, who went to college last fall, was a fantastic softball player. And they traveled all over. They'd go to Texas, they'd go to all different states to watch her play softball. And I don't know if she's doing that in college or not, but I mean, but she was really something. She went to Thomas Jefferson High School, and just a sweet, beautiful girl. But anyway, moved to California last summer, and then she went off to college in Kansas last fall. So, we happened to be outside at the same time, he and I, and he was just he was just saying that she was having a kind of a tough time getting used to being away from home and being at school. And he said, "Yeah, we're gonna go visit her this weekend." And he said, "Actually, we're having a really tough time with it too." And and I said, "Yeah." I said, "It leaves a big hole in your house." And he said, "It really does. That's exactly what it does." So visited her fairly often, I think at least at the beginning of the year until she got grounded in being at school and feeling comfortable. Well, fast forward to about a month ago. We were outside talking, and they'd done some stuff in their backyard, and he invited me back there to show me his patio, and his wife was out there, and neither one of them had been in my house either, and it was remodeled in 2019. So, anyway, she came over to take a look at the house, and we were walking through, and while we were talking, just kind of out of the blue, she said, "Both of my kids left home last year, and I started making sourdough." And it was the it was just the most interesting statement, number 1, um, and that she and I guess that she felt comfortable saying that to me. That was really a blessing for me. But about a week later, she brought me a loaf, and it was very good, and that was just so sweet of her to do that. And I happened to see her outside a few days ago and told her that I really liked it. It was really good. And she goes, "Well, she just started a new batch, but I'm really frustrated with it." And, she said she thought maybe she should just give up on it. Her daughter, who's home for the summer, encouraged her to keep going, which I think is too kind of a full element in that story. right? Um, but I said, it really is an experiment, isn't it? She said, yeah, I guess it is. And I said, so that's what keeps you going, to see if you can get better at this or to see if you can beat it. For her, it's sour. For me, it's gardening. And it's a challenge. It's an experiment. But the thing is, for her, learning to make sourdough and getting involved in that was a path of least resistance because it gave her something to focus on while she was grieving her children leaving home. For me, having a project to work on it falls under the category of the path of least resistance. I love projects. Whether it's spring or fall cleaning, preparing for a party or company, decorating for the holidays, gardening, figuring out for a series of classes, or working on a painting. I love projects because they have a beginning and an end, and they are gratifying when they're finished. And while I'm doing them, they are something I can be totally focused on and totally in the moment. And of course, normal life doesn't stop because I have a project. So they typically take a little or sometimes a lot longer than they should because I'm working at the same time. I'm online for calls. I'm, you know, writing and doing my show or whatever. Um, and that and that also is when things, when okay, let me back up here because I've got to make this smoother than is coming out of my mouth at the moment. So I'm working. I've got a project that I've got going to. And so, calls come in and I take calls. And then I might have time to work on the project in the morning or in between calls. And that's when I get to practice acceptance and flexibility, because I can get on a track of, I want to get this done. I want to get this much done. And I want to get it done today in 2 hours or 2 minutes. And that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because that's it can't. I'm available for my clients. I'm working, not just working on the project. And that's also, see, and that's good, because I get to practice acceptance and flexibility. And then everything flows to include the timing of the calls that come in. Like I'll be working on something, maybe a piece of a painting, and I'll get to the place where I'm ready to put my brush down, and then the phone rings. So it all gets into this really lovely flow if I just chill and go along with it. And that's also, when you run into bumps in the road, or when I do, and again under the heading of projects, doing a project, that's when they become too, like, to use a Ram Dass expression, element in the fire of my purification, meaning they're the opportunity to observe myself getting impatient or frustrated or shook up because something isn't working and I have to shift gears or start over. And this is especially true. This is especially true when the project is a creative one, like painting or writing. When I have some time to work on it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have this time to work on it. I'll work on it from not here to here, and then I'll sign for calls or whatever. And I sit down to do it, and I have zip inspiration. None. None. Always. That's always an incredible experience. Creativity doesn't have an off switch, or at least it just would be good if it had an on switch, at least not for me. I have to be in that. And when I'm in that flow and I'm working on a painting or I'm writing, it's doing itself. I really am in that flow. I'm just the instrument, and that's bliss. That there's nothing better than that. But, wrap this up and get on to talking to CA, projects tend to include a lot of opportunities to practice acceptance and ability. And that is the best part. because they test me. They test me. And a lot of doing something, gardening, great example, that I've never done before, that I really don't know how to do. And I'm using my doing the best I can, but I don't know that they're going to be successful. I don't know that my plants are going to be successful and flower or whatever. I grow and I get better as a result. You keep going. You just keep going. And, maybe the path of least resistance was a strange umbrella to put all that under. But really and truly, whatever eases our struggles, path of least resistance at the moment we need it. So, on that note, welcome, CA. What do you think?
I'm laughing, Kelly. Which
Solar? Did that
amazing
make you
me.
laugh?
Yes,
Solar?
yes, yes. And thank you for that acronym because that's a wonderful thing to just be able to. I mean, what I'm thinking is we all have these habitual behaviors, but I'm not sure that we think of them as intentional. So, now I can just go, yeah, put on the polar outfit instead of, just that being an unconscious intention. Let's put it that way. But I am laughing too because, as you know, I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school. And of course, we always railed against having to wear uniforms. I mean, and I wore a uniform
Mm-mm.
the first 8 years of my life, until I went to public school, right? But the reason I'm
Yeah.
laughing is because as an adult, and I'm sure you and I have talked about this, my friends have always said, you always wear a uniform. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, you just do. You just have your uniform. And it's absolutely true and that becomes my polar. Like, I put on a pair of blue
Uh-huh.
jeans and a white button down shirt. That's my polar. And
Uh-huh.
it's funny because I may have 20 white blouses. And even one friend, one time when
Oh, I
we
thought
went shopping,
blue.
what I do, I
Uh-huh.
have a lot of blue.
I
I have
thought
a
you wore
lot of
blue
blue.
shirts.
I have a lot of blue and a lot of white. But one time I went shopping with a friend, and it was, in those old days when you're actually in a store and you tried things on. And so I said, what are you looking at? And, I come up and I'm holding, yeah, you know what I'm holding? I'm holding blue and white shirts.
White shirt.
And she looked at me and she goes, you're kidding, right? And I go, no, why? And she goes, how many white blouses do you have in your closet? And I said, well, I don't know. And she goes, yeah, you don't know. What would you need another one for? And, but I never forgot that because you realize I didn't know that. I wasn't cognizant of the fact that I just always gravitated towards, there again, white and blue blouses. And you're right. And I mean, I do wear a few other things. Let's face it, I love a lot of color, but it's because it's polar to me. It's
Mhm.
comforting. It's home. I don't have to think about
You
it.
feel good.
Yeah, I
You feel
feel
good in it.
good. I feel good.
Mhm.
And so I love that whole conversation you were having with that. But one of the reasons I'm laughing too, and I think somehow this may not sound perfect, but I think it really fits in. As I was sitting here
Good.
right before we started the show, I just kind of had this hunch. It was just kind of like this thought. And I thought, you know what? I want to draw a tarot card. I don't know why, because I usually don't before the show. But I thought, I'm just going to draw a card because I just think I want a card. And so then you started talking. But the card that I drew, and by the way, I purposely chose the Housewives deck, which to me is a very fun and funny deck. It's
Oh, fun.
regular tarot, but of course you can imagine all the pictures are from the 50s and they're housewives.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, oh,
Cute.
it's so and it makes you laugh because it's so funny. But anyway, I pulled the Hanged Man. And this is what it says. And I want to read it. It's just a paragraph. I want to read it right from the book. It says,
Cool, cool.
epiphany, hardship, a turning point. You've had an epiphany, and finally you see things as they really are. Whether it's your backstabbing girlfriend, a new washer dryer that isn't working as promised, or your womanizing no good husband, it's time to hang your problems out to dry. This may seem like a hard thing to do, but you must. Enough is enough. Keep in mind that this sacrifice and time of hardship is necessary to make way for future happiness. But the way I saw this was exactly what you were talking about. Quit resisting this. Wake up and smell the coffee and see
Mhm.
what what you're doing. You're spending all your time wanting, like it says, the no good girlfriend or the no good husband or whatever it is that isn't working. You're spending all your time resisting it. You're spending all your time trying to change it, and you don't need to do that.
Different.
You
Yeah.
don't, yeah, you don't need to do it. And anybody who does know the Tarot and the Hanged Man, oftentimes, even though there's a variety of meanings for this, most of the time it is quit struggling, quit resisting what's going on,
Mm.
because you are simply making the knots tighter and tighter and tighter because you're not seeing what's really happening here. And so the best thing you can do is relax, accept it, and then you're going to know what to do. Then you're going to know what the solution to the problem is. And so when I saw the
Mhm.
Hanged Man, I thought, oh my God, how funny. And like I said, in these cards, it is funny because there's a woman, she's outside and she's smiling. She's got this big smile on her face as she's hanging up clothes on a clothesline. But one of the things that's hanging up and upside down, of course, is her husband. So, but there again, because it's the Hanged Man, they wanted that symbol to be on the card. But
Mhm.
I just loved it, and I think it's maybe a little bit different than what you were talking about, but it has to do with quit resisting, especially the obvious. Like I'll give you an example
Right.
this week, and it's one of those things. It's like, even if I tell you, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to, really, CA? Really? Did you expect something different? And that is, I needed to get a new license, a new driver's license. And so I'm trying to play by the rules. I get online and get an appointment because you can't go to the DMV unless you've made an appointment online,
I know. Here
which,
too.
is so, I mean, it just gets me into all kinds of stuff, but including,
Yeah.
some of the older people who that's just not, it's so hard for them to navigate those systems. But in any case, so I get online, I make the appointment, I go down, I jump all the hoops, I pay. And by the way, it's a ways from my house. But anyway, so I take that time that day and do the whole thing. So then the license is supposed to come in 7 to 10 days. It never comes. So I've got all the receipts and all the paperwork. And by the way, this just makes me laugh. The paperwork literally says, if your license does not come within 180 days, then contact us. That's 6 months, Kelly. 6 months. If we don't send it within 6 months. And I'm just like, you have got to be kidding. Wait 6
Well,
months.
that's kind of like if your license doesn't come, by the time the apocalypse does,
Right, right.
contact us again.
And so the minute I even saw that, I go, oh my God. I mean, they don't want you to do anything unless it's been 6 months. But I said to myself, you know what? I'm not waiting 6 months, And so I start, and by the way, the DMV here, it's almost everything is online. Like I said, they don't like, if you call, and I have a lot of experience with that too, because none of the questions online that you can ask is the question of what happens if my license doesn't show up. So finally I said, okay,
Oh,
they
you're
don't have
kidding.
enough. No, there's no option for that. So I went ahead and I called them. But if you call them, what happens is inevitably it says, we're sorry, the queue is filled. You'll have to call back. So I called multiple days over a 3-week period until finally I got a live person on the phone. And that live person said, oh, yeah, there was a problem with the picture that day. So we didn't send the license. You'll have to come back in and get your picture taken.
Oh,
And I said,
no.
well, do I need an appointment? And she said, oh, no, just come in, get your picture taken. And, that's it. Well, what do you really think, Kelly? Do you think that's how it works? Of course it doesn't.
No.
So
No.
2 hours later at the DMV and several arguments, because of course they kept saying, we've got nothing in the computer. And I'm like, well, what do you think about all this paperwork I've got right here? in my hand. And thankfully, they had given me pretty extensive receipts and paperwork. So I go, where did
Mhm.
this come from? And he just gave me a blank look. But here's the thing. So finally, I jumped through hoops for 2 hours. He wanted me, by the way, to come back. He said, I can't do this today. He
Oh,
said,
yes, you
there's
can.
all these people waiting ahead of you, and I can't put you in front of them. And I said, I've been working on this since March, and you don't want to put me ahead of these people? So he knew I
Mhm.
wasn't going to go away. So he made me wait, so I was there for over 2 hours, but I went through the whole, and that's it. I had to go through the whole process again because having the receipt and the paperwork meant nothing. So, and he just kept assuring me it wasn't in the computer. And he also told me nobody else has ever had that problem. And
Right.
I wanted to burst out laughing is what I wanted. But long story short, now I do have the new license because it now has been a week and it
Yay.
did come. But I was
Good.
thinking to myself, I am resisting because I'm having a really hard time letting it go on some level
Yeah.
because there's part of me that says, despite all of our advances in communication and technology, it's like even if they did have a problem with the camera that day or the technology and they didn't get the picture, they didn't text, they don't call, they don't send you a
Mhm.
letter, they don't use any communication to do it. But this is kind of twofold. There's part of me that's frustrated that despite AI, despite all the advances, a simple thing like getting a license continues to be a major issue in our country. You know? I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
because DMV is almost equal to being messed up. And that's what also I was thinking this morning. It was just making me laugh because, and that's why I say you'd say to me, silly, really, CA, how silly are you? Why would you ever expect the DMV to be anything than what it has always been? Right? And it's
Mhm.
just kind of a laugh. It's a joke. It's almost like, do we as a state, as a country, go out of our way to keep these stereotypes in place? You know, it's like,
Well,
and why
yeah.
do I fight it? Why would I expect it to be different?
See, well, and the thing is, it's also you expect it to be the way it is, you
Yes,
know, because it's the
yes,
DMV, right? We just
right.
we just assume that. And in fact, I'm waiting to get the title or find out about the title to my car because I need to get license plates. And that expires on the 27th of this month. I know there's a grace period after that, but I've not heard anything. And I bought it
Right.
the 28th of May.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I know that the DMV is really close to me, just over on Monaco and
Uh-huh.
Evans,
Oh
basically.
yeah, that's
So
right. Yeah.
that's a piece of cake. And they are nice there. So I don't mind doing that, but it's like, but you just have this idea. The first thing that pops into my head, because I went and got my driver's license a year ago, a new one, and it was the same thing. You make an appointment, it's weeks away, and I get in there and I've got all the paperwork that they say you have to have online. And I said, "Well, I've got all my paperwork." And the girl that ushered me in was really sweet. She goes, "All we need is your old license." What? Really?
Yep.
It's like, prove that you've lived at your address for 100 years. It was like extensive documentation. Bring it with you, or else you may not be able to get your license. And she goes, "All we need is your old license."
Yeah.
It's just funny. It's just one of those places.
Yes, and by the way, I've had some good experiences over on that Monaco one too. When I lived
Yeah.
in Denver, yeah, that was positive. But like, and even this, I took my dad in to get a real ID because, of course, he's 96, and my mom, by
Mhm.
the way, just turned 97 this week. So
Oh, happy birthday.
yeah, we had a little birthday party for her. Anyway, so I had taken dad to the DMV here, got an appointment online. There's no way he could do that. I mean, just no way.
Right.
I'm
Right,
not sure
right.
he's ever touched a computer, quite truthfully, Kelly. I mean that. I don't think he's ever used a computer. So got him the appointment, took him in, and he walks with a cane and really doesn't have very good mobility. And so I said,
Mhm.
Dad, you just sit right here in one of these chairs and I will go up and I will wait in line. So I'm waiting in line, and the person, when I get up there, she goes, well, where is he? And I said, he's sitting over on those chairs. And it was like, well, he's not supposed to be sitting there. And I said, well, he's 96. You go tell her. It's like, really? I mean, honest to goodness, who is supposed to be sitting in those chairs? I mean, once again, I have a hard time not just laughing. Like, okay. But the other thing that I thought was funny this time, and in fact, some of us were there talking and laughing because, like there's 60, 70 people waiting, even though we've all got appointments,
Yeah.
we're all waiting. And what the DMV does here, which I think I don't know, I don't want to say it's bad, but what they do is once you check in, they send you a text and you've got to respond to the text.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. The good thing is you can renew your license if you're under 70. You can do it on the computer. So who do you think all the people are that are sitting at the DMV? The people who are over 70 is my point. And do you know how many of them, they kept saying, well, when are they ever going to call my name? And somebody would say, well, did you check the text on your phone? And they're like, my what? They had no idea that they were waiting for this text and that they needed to respond to it. And once again, I just felt so bad because I thought the very people that are going to have a hard time navigating, and here again, like my dad. Now, once again, though, my dad's 96, but he can't do text. He has me look at his texts every day and tell him what they say and respond to them.
Sure.
And so, the very people that are sitting there who are least likely to be, using a whole lot of digital, although, certainly 70 and 80-year-olds are definitely using the technology. But I thought, how funny is this? You set up a system where the people who are really good with computers don't have to be there in the first place. And the people who are there, now they've got to respond back and forth on their phones. And I was just like, oh my God, what's wrong with this picture? But once again, going back to the path of least resistance, it's why would I spend even 1 minute considering why this is a dysfunctional system? Why would I consider even 1 minute, And it's, I mean, I hate to think that we can't change, that we can't, that some things can't become easy. Because I know to some extent they can, Like even in Colorado, if you go, at least the way it used to be, if you go to get a license, they hand it to you right then. You get your picture taken, they slap it together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whereas when I got one in California, you had to wait 6 weeks to get it. And apparently in Nevada, you have to wait 6 months. And so it's like,
with your fingers crossed.
Yeah, where's all the AI? Where's all this technology that's supposed to be making everything wonderful? It's just like, oh my God. So, anyway,
well, I think
quit resisting
I don't think when I got mine now, though, a year ago, they punch a hole in the old one, and you just keep that and it did come in the mail.
Yeah.
So I remember when you'd get there at 7:00 in the morning and line up outside when they opened, and you were in and out because there were a bunch of people there. They just took care of you, and it was it was not anything anybody wanted to do, but it was pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, it's just, but once again, just to your topic of really looking at our lives and saying, what do we resist? And maybe we're never going to figure out exactly why we resist it, but recognizing that we are and that we don't have to.
Well, and there's just there are things that bug you, and that's just how it is.
Right.
And you can accept that too.
Yeah.
Accept that too. You can accept yourself being bugged. And
Mhm.
that also drops the load off your shoulders, just
Right.
that. Uh,
Right.
because it's it's like, well, why do I think that? Why does that always bug me? Who cares? In this moment, I'm bugged by that and I can have it and then it
Mhm.
leaves.
And
And so that's all.
and
But
recognizing
we're
that we
human.
want to be bugged or we wouldn't be doing it. We
Yeah.
want it. We want to be
Well,
bugged.
yeah.
It's well, it's kind of that old thing about you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, we used to say. You just want to be bugged. You want to
Yeah.
find something wrong. And so, boy darn it, we're going to find it. And you just have to take a step back and learn to laugh and laugh at yourself
Mhm.
and just go,
Yeah.
yeah, really? Really? So it's a
Yeah.
good topic for today. And, you know, truthfully, as an astrologer, I'll say that we just have some phenomenal energy in the universe in the next few years. I mean, we've been talking about this, but there's something going on this week that really highlights it with three of the
Hmm.
planets that is just saying, you know what? Do you want to find ways to really make your life magical? Do you want to have those
Hmm.
cathartic moments, those cathartic and healing opportunities? They're there. You just have
Mhm.
to wake up to them and recognize that change is inevitable, because that's what
Mhm.
it has to be change. It has to
Mhm.
be, quit kicking, kicking something and then complaining because your toes hurt or whatever. You just got
Mhm.
to look at something a little bit different and
Yeah.
recognizing that, yeah, you're doing it, so don't do it.
Yeah.
It's that old thing like in Groundhog Day where Bill Murray is walking down the street and he steps in that ice puddle every single day until finally he goes, I don't have to step in this puddle every day. I can walk around it.
Uh-huh.
So, you
Well,
know,
and all that is just being aware.
hmm
It's just being aware before you let yourself go down the rabbit hole,
yes.
or let yourself get carried away with something. And really to look at it and go, I am I am I have a stomach ache over this, and that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. So, but accepting whatever the thing is because it's not changing and accepting yourself and how you feel about it, it falls away. The struggle falls away, and then you're free and you can look at it and you're available for if it's a problem, for solutions, for something new to come in to help you with it. But when you're focused on it and in that struggle, you've excluded help because your attention is on what's wrong. So it's just awareness. Like I don't have to feel this way. This is dumb. CA, do we lose ya? Oh, I just heard myself talk. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm talking to Serena. She told me I'm still live. So anyway, I just thought this was kind of a fun thing to look at because I just didn't realize um, how stuck in a rut I am. But at the same time, it's like every single thing. I I would call it stuck in a rut if it was what I didn't like, right? But the things that I call polar are the things that happen to work for me and make life easy or make me happy. So that's not a rut. That might just be brilliant. Maybe we'll take that. We'll take that answer. That was just brilliant. But it was really funny. We have a few more minutes. I was thinking about when I was thinking about just the things that you do that I do habitually and what I do and why, because it's like Chopra would call it the law of least effort. You do what you do with the least amount of effort, and then pretty soon you just don't put any effort into it at all, and it still gets done. And that's wise. That's wise. And that's also being, I think, aware and counting on your intuition. I think intuition plays a big, big, big part in that. Um, because that's your guidance system. That's just your internal guidance system. You know when something feels good, you know when it doesn't. And then, you change it around or you take a different route or whatever it is. But we have that. We have that internal red or green light. We have that internal guidance system because that's God. And if we can just allow ourselves to be the instrument through which it flows, um, we're good. We're good. And that's being flexible. That's using acceptance. That's taking the path of least resistance when we can see it. Um, and looking for it, actually. Looking for it. How can I do this without fighting it? How can I look at this a different way? And as CA was saying, some things just bother you. They do because you're in a human incarnation. And we judge things and assign qualities to things based on our experience, based on our filters, our influences, as Goldsmith would say, which are prenatal, early childhood experience, um, education, and life experience. It's all the things that we've done, all the places we've been, all the people we've been from the time we were a tiny baby until now. We've been a lot of different people. We've lived a lot of different lifetimes in this lifetime. And all of those contribute to our opinions, and all of those create our perceptions that we judge everything through, with our human mind that that brings the unformed consciousness, which is God, which is our consciousness, divine consciousness, the truth of who we are, our soul, self, being, consciousness, life, and mind. It's not unformed, like unconditioned. Unconditioned, that's the word. Unconditioned consciousness. That's supply. That's spiritual substance. That is a living thing. That is us. Supply is God in us. But when our mind comes in, it sees things and creates it. It's the method through which we bring that unconditioned consciousness into consciousness, into physical consciousness by giving it form. And that's what those filters do. They give form to our experiences, and they weigh everything against what we already know. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that's just, oh, I know. Eh, But that's those perceptions are what, as I said, give things their qualities of good, bad, want to, don't want to, whatever it is, whatever our judgments and opinions are. And judgments and opinions are not truth. They are only truth for the person who holds them, period. They're not truth. They're just that. How we decide something is a certain way and we just stick with it. Probably because we were told it when we were tiny little babies and our parents told it what it was. It just goes on because that's what we're here. We're here in this psychic universal consciousness, as Goldsmith called it, which is what, everybody's thoughts and emotions that have ever been on this planet, they just create that atmosphere, thought atmosphere. That's what Dr. Irvin Seal calls it. And that's what we're susceptible to. So we're, in some things that we have our special sort of tender spots, things that really get us. And sometimes we'll walk into a store and we'll just walk out totally out of sorts because we've just run into some energy. It's as simple as that. We've run into some energy that lit something up in us, matching pictures, so to speak, to a picture that we have about something in our consciousness. But we're human, and so we have to give ourselves a pass for that too. You know, But if we can, I think just be aware that, yeah, I really do think it comes down to two things: accept or suffer. Just this is this is how I feel today. I wish I felt lively and zippy and could get 10 things done, but I'm just not there. And I'm okay with that. I accept that. So, anyway, just food for thought. I always want to give you food for thought. And I appreciate you being with me today. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. I want to thank CA for being my guest. CA Brooks was my guest today. I'm Kelly Whetstone. You've been listening to Empowerment. We are here on YouTube and 1-2 Radio. I still have to give 1-2 Radio its props because I've been on 1-2 Radio since 2009. So it's a little hard thing for me to kind of let that go. But we're here on YouTube. And the idea is we're changing the way that you listen to the world. Thank you for joining me today. I wish you a very, very blessed week. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye bye.